Project 25 is this thing crafted by the Heritage Foundation, which is a bold, far-reaching conservative agendum for the next Republican administration, aiming to shape the American political and social landscape. It's a manifesto, in other words, that consolidates significant powers in the executive branch, dismantles administrative institutions, and champions traditional conservative ideals of family, sovereignty, and individual rights. So while Donald Trump has publicly distanced himself from the document, Project 2025 still remains intertwined with individuals and groups deeply connected to his administration. And this connection has sparked controversy, particularly among Democrats who've used it as an attack line ahead of the Democratic National Convention. And what stands out beyond the ties to Trump are the document's broader implication that it reflects the ambitions of far-right conservative movements intent on fundamentally restructuring the way the government works in the United States. The desire for a viable and credible government should, therefore, I think, depend on a viable and credible presidential candidate, one who's not ensnared in the controversies or the trivial distractions about canine digestion. It's paramount, and Donald Trump does not come across as that candidate, even if the latest polling suggests that he will scrape through as the likely successor to Biden at the moment. Kamala Harris is increasing her pressure on him, and her performance in the debate was impressive. But you've got to remember, Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump in a number of debates and then lost the election because of the electoral system, the electoral college system that functions in America. This arcane, esoteric, bizarre system. And, you know, the whole idea about credible performance is especially vital when the stakes include politics and policies like consolidating federal agencies under presidential control, rolling back protections for federal workers, making sweeping changes in immigration, climate, and education policies. A serious, policy-driven candidate can better navigate such a complex and politically polarizing platform. And one of the most radical aspects of Project 2025 is the unitary executive theory, where the president would have unchecked authority over the entire federal bureaucracy, stripping protections from civil servants and allowing for mass firings and appointments based on political loyalty. This idea not only threatens the independence of key government institutions like the Department of Justice, but also raises concerns about the erosion of democratic checks and balances. And the policy proposals also highlight conservative social values, advocating for an ultra-traditional view of family life and marriage, not so different from President Putin's, and attempting to curtail progressive education and social programs. This wish list seems to cater heavily to the far-right base, but it risks alienating moderate voters who might seek conservative fiscal policies without endorsing such drastic social reforms. So a credible Republican candidate ought to find a delicate balance, pushing policies that can broadly appeal to the electorate without veering into extremes that could alienate middle ground voters or cause irreparable harm to American institutions, and by association give an example to other countries. This discussion isn't just about policy, but it's about credibility, foresight, and crucially the ability to unify a country. And what we got out of the debate this morning, particularly with Trump turning up at the centre afterwards and saying, insisting this was the best debate that he'd ever had. what we got was complaints about the moderators, about David Muir and Lindsay Davis, and it's and the idea that it was a mess, which Senator, I think, Lindsey Graham has said, the worst moderated debate in history. Well, once you start debating the format of once you start questioning the format of the debate, I think you've essentially lost. And to then go into the spin room and attack the unfair moderators, it's unusual. And generally, the candidates who go into the spin room are the candidates who have lost. So it would be very good to have another opportunity, as Kamala Harris wants, I believe, and Donald Trump said this debate was so good he wants another. So I think there's going to be another debate. Kamala Harris has to hit a massive blow on the Trump campaign to push her polling to a point where it's a credible win. At the moment, it's a close call, and it's a much closer call than it would have been with Biden. But she would have to work much harder, and I don't know whether simply having a presidential debate is enough. I don't know whether it's even enough for her to be waving the flag and saying that she owns a gun. The policies that she's putting forward seem, certainly from somebody looking at it from the UK, to be slightly more right-wing than I would have expected. But I mean, her strength is that she sounds realistic, while Trump sounds unhinged. And issues like the big issues like the economy, defense, Ukraine, abortion. Actually, Project 2025, I don't think calls for an outright ban on nationwide, or calls for an outright nationwide abortion ban. But it does call for significantly more restraint in following the right to decide. And I think there's a lot more in Project 2025 than perhaps is coming out in the Trump campaign. And if Project 2025 is a blueprint for the Trump campaign, it seems a little worrying. If it's a paper tiger to be knocked down by the Democrats side, that is equally. The question is what is this Project 2025, and what link does it have to Trump? And at the moment, it doesn't seem to have a very strong link, but it is there in the background. But Trump is in the foreground, and Trump has taken on the mantle of a dithering character, much the same sort of mantle that he was trying to cast onto the shoulders of President Biden.